Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to a very special broadcast of Open Up. We have a super special guest today from the United Kingdom, Francesca Jex. Before we get to her, there's some news I'd like to share with you about our organization. My name is Dipchand Ramcharitar, and I'm the Outreach and Development Coordinator at Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020 and based in London, Ontario, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help support and overcome men, boys' life challenges. We are part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years and so far in 90 plus countries around the world, joined together and doing various activities together regularly. International Men's Day follows six pillars, which is for the overall well being of boys and men. We follow in the same footsteps. We have a special announcement at this point. We have a very, very special event coming up on October 7th, 2023, from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Moulton Community Center, 3540 Morningstar Drive in Mississauga, Ontario, in which we present a program about the Residential School Systems 101, Part 2. We would very much appreciate if you can make your presence available to have you around. We would really much like the support. Thank you so much. Before I introduce our special guest for today, I would like to go through our disclaimer. We would like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speakers and do not necessarily represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of medical and therapeutic advice. Sorry. Just bear with me 1 second. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness of the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have any questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. Now on with the show and to our very special guest, Francesca Jex. She's a production assistant, personal assistant, director assistant, independent film reviewer, model, and much more. Welcome to the wonderful Francesca Jex.
Hi.
All right, so let's dive right in. Tell us about your job and the company you work for, and in particular, how the documentary you're currently working on address men's mental health issue.
So, as you stated, I'm a researcher and production assistant as well as personal assistant. So, currently, I'm doing that with Spirit Lift Films. I also work with TNA Productions. So, both of these companies focus on mental health specifically because everybody suffers mental illness, whether you know it or realize it or not. And with the documentary that we're focusing on with Spirit Lift Films, we decided that we needed to raise more awareness around men's mental health because of the rising figures in men's suicide. And I jumped on board. This project had been going for a year and a half, and I jumped on board as a researcher to just because mental health is something close, so very close to my heart, because mental illness is something I've been struggling with since over 20 years now, and it's a generational thing with the men in my family and people around me, and for me it's getting people's journeys out there, men in particular, that others can see that, wow, I'm not the only one. If they can get through this, I can get through this. I'm not alone. It's not just me. And with the right, I mean, we've had the most inspirational people that you could imagine. And from even doing this, it's made me realize with my mental illness, there isn't ever a cure. And for the sake of my son, who is almost 3, I still need help continuously. So I seek help myself, and how much I want the world together to change,
Wow.
change as one.
Yeah,
From
that's
here, for
yeah.
the next generation, not just for the here and now, but for us, our kids, our sons, everyone.
Yeah, well, thank you for that insight. It's certainly inspirational to hear that there are other people out there being proactive and trying to get the message out to what I consider to be something of still of a sort of a taboo subject
Absolutely.
in modern society. So it's great for the work you're doing with your group and regarding your own personal life. Kudos to you for that. So
Thank
we
you.
want to move on to the next. You're more than welcome. Uh, so we want to move on. So, in your experience, can you tell us how do cultural differences affect a man's ability to access mental health assistance?
So I would say with cultural differences, you could highlight that as in with religion, or where you're raised, or the society you're around. I mean, my dad grew up in a very cultural society of, you don't discuss mental health. You have to be strong. You're a man. We don't talk about this stuff. You go and drink. You go down the pub. Um, Religion plays many factors as well. You turn to God. You don't go and seek help because you have to be the man of the house. God solves your issues. You have to be strong. Then you have very much of the black community who grew up decades ago, slavery, being absolutely demoralized, you know, everything like this, didn't have anything, and still being demoralized, you know, can't get the help that they need, or feel they have to be man enough, you know. It goes with the cultural society and what you're taught, what you're surrounded by, what your family teaches you. Very much so. I mean, even here in the UK, how our teens are growing up is very much like the masculinity thing is going out, protecting, you have to be a certain way. And it's not, kids aren't kids anymore.
Yes, that is true. It's quite disheartening, I would say, to a certain extent, to see how certain cultures, have to struggle more than others to
Oh,
bridge that.
completely.
Yeah, And so,
And I have to say, there's a man here called Craig Pinkney who does a fabulous, incredible job highlighting these issues with the youths and working on all of this and fighting for them. And I just want to give him a huge shout out because he's remarkable what he does. And I've been watching what he does for many years and he's fascinating.
okay, well, kudos to him for all the hard work he's doing, and to you for pointing that out. So let's move on. So, uh, can you give me the average woman's perspective on men's issues, especially mental health, and how, if in any way, has the media influenced that?
Oh, I can give my opinion. I don't think I can speak for women as a whole. I'm very much for the sake that men's vulnerability is a strong point. I personally seen a man being vulnerable and showing their side of I need help, something's not right, or I'm going through this is what's wrong. That to me is a strength. That is something I personally would take as that is strong. That is someone that knows himself instead of a mask trying to be something that you're not. And from my side of things, people that I know want that too. Women that I know want that too. But I can't speak for all women because we're all different. Um, I think it's literally coming together to support one another, so that we can stay strong. We can make relationships work because a lot of the time when relationships don't work, it's because there's no communication there and they crash and burn. Something is going on with one person and they're not communicating. And a lot of times that communication has to take place. And a lot of times you have to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is the key in life. If you're not okay, you need to say. You need to let someone in. You have to let someone in. There is always someone there.
Right, exactly. And to the other part of the question, in your opinion,
Mhm.
what part do you think? Do you think the media is impartial when it comes to gender-related issues, or do you think there is a definitive bias, as it is here?
I do definitely think there's a bias, 1,000%. And there is definitely a bias. I think we are getting there, but it is a long-winded process. I think if we keep doing things like this, we will get more people speaking out. I mean, how long is it taken for sports players to actually stand up and say, "This, I'm not good. This isn't right," or to speak out about any sexual abuse that has happened, and it happened many years ago, or how racism affected them, or any of this. It's taken decades. It has taken decades.
Yes, it's an ongoing process, and it would be encouraging if there are some signs of closing that gap. And
Hmm.
certainly, it's long overdue. So we gotta all keep at it, and do our part in making sure that these issues are made aware to the public, and
Yes.
everybody joins in and work towards a better common goal for where gender is not really a factor, but it's more to the interest of the individual.
Yes.
So hopefully we will
Absolutely.
get there sooner than later. Okay,
Definitely.
so in your experience in the fashion and modeling industry, where do you see men fitting in, and what are some of the major issues they face?
Oh, I think a lot of the times with the fashion industry, it's the portrayal that a man has to be muscular and fit and the strong, dominating one on the set. I mean, I've gone to a couple of photo shoots, and the same guy, you can see that he's got his insecurities himself, is wearing what women will call Spanx. We have no shame in it. I have no shame in it. I'll put my hands up. I'm always in mine, you know?
Yeah.
But he's very insecure. And the last one, when it started showing, he felt the need to tell everyone. And you could see the embarrassment. I was like, and? Why is that wrong? It's not. But you don't need to feel insecure about it. There's nothing wrong with that. But for some reason, it was to him. You have to look a particular way. You have to be a particular way. Whereas with women, you want all shapes and sizes. So why is it different with men?
Yeah, good question. And I know generally when it comes to, well, let's say, for example, the salaries. There is always this debate about pay gap and wage gap and whatnot, and I some people think it should be based on merit, and I think usually in the fashion industry the women out earn the men by a fair bit, and again if it's about merit and the women are the ones who bring in the most eyeballs and the most revenue, then it stands to reason that based on that they should be paid more, and I agree with that. So that's not an issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Some people believe more in equity, and others believe more in merit. So it's just a question of I guess what you believe in, but I think merit is more of a just system.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's good to is it in terms of personnel, would you say that the amount of men and women on a particular set, on the average set, is about the same, or do you think there are more men or women?
Well, I only started modelling back in April. So I've done so far 2 group shoots. The first one, there was one male, the rest were all females. The last one, I think it was a balance. It was a balance because of the theme of the shoot, which
Right.
was incredible, I have to say. Um, so that was great, absolutely awesome. But it's all depends on what they're looking for, what they're shooting, what the theme is, and who you're working with as well.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to switch gears a bit onto something more personal. And I wanted to ask, what type of relationship did you have growing up with your dad, and how did that impact your transition into adulthood?
Okay, so I've got 3 older brothers. So I'm the only girl. I was an absolute daddy's girl. So my dad worked all over the world all my life. So when he would come home, I was absolute daddy's girl. Like my dad was my everything. Um, but something happened when I was 8 years old. I was sexually assaulted by a stranger.
Sorry to hear.
It's I mean, it's not okay, but I'm dealing with it. I thought I dealt with it until recently, and another reason I'm doing what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, I from that I kind of developed a lack of trust in a lot of men, um, especially the fact that my dad would go and then come back, and all I wanted was my dad there. my dad to protect me, and my dad wasn't there to protect me. And I didn't realize this until recently, that that's possible. That's the reason why. But I kind of isolated myself. So, and it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't it wasn't anyone in my family's fault. It's nobody's fault. Um, and yeah, from that I became anorexic, and I didn't let anyone in, anybody in. The only person who was allowed me in, he was like close to me, was my mum. And my dad, bless his heart, he just didn't know how to deal watching his daughter go through all this stuff. And for years, I think he was in denial that anything was going on. I don't think he understood, to be honest. He didn't understand anorexia. And I didn't blame him, but he'd never been around it. He didn't know about it. And yeah, I mean, we had living in the same house and things like that. We had many arguments over food and things like this. Eventually, I moved out. I was living on my own. I got better. And then now, me and my dad have the best relationship ever. Ever. Especially since I had my son. He's just an incredible granddad as well. Like, if I need anything, I can just call my dad up. But how I think it shaped me was that I know I'll always have my dad no matter what. But I also know how important it is to understand mental illness. How important it is to have. I was very lucky that my mum understood. Like, I'm blessed that my mum understood, and she fought the whole way. The whole way. Um, but I also saw, in a sense, the denial and the impact that had on me, because it made me, in a way, resentful. And all of that has gone now, because as you're older and you grow, you realise everything that when you're a teen, you don't. But I wouldn't change any of that, because my dad's turned out to be an incredible human being, incredible man. And
Okay.
he's got so much empathy and so much, you know, he's grown himself.
Wow, what a wonderful ending. It's unfortunate, and I'm sorry that things were a bit sticky in the beginning, but and thank goodness your mom was there for you to guide you through. But
Yeah,
towards the end, your dad came through, and what a wonderful end to such a interesting story. So it's good to have dads around. Dads are important. Moms are important. We need both parents, and that your dad was there, and now he's there for your son as well. It's kudos to him. So
thank
fantastic. I have one final question for you, but before I do, I would just like to run through our disclaimer that we have here. And there are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walk of life can participate in any of our shows. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization and help us directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number is 226-289-8784. Email address info@voiceofmen360.org. website www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us all also on social media. We're pretty much on all of them. Facebook, please join our group on Facebook to see our daily activities and invite your friends as well. Other social media platforms we're engaged with: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. So there's a special announcement that we have again. And just as a reminder, we have a very, very special event coming up on October 7th, 2023 from 5 to 9 at the Malton Community Center, 3540 Morningstar Drive in in Mississauga. And it's concerning the residential school systems 101. This is part two of that program. And it is something that we all should join forces together and be a part of. So we really look forward to your support. Please come out and support us. So, Francesca, as a final question, just if you have any contact information that you would like to share with the people on here, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. If anybody wants to reach me, you can get in touch with Francesca Jex, Jex, on LinkedIn. It's CHESCAE.J on Instagram. You can also, well, I hope this is okay, email info you guys with my email address. I also have an entire list of charities here in the UK if anyone needs them, from Man Up, Andy's Man Club, the Calm Zone. Even if you're in university, Grieving Pints, love them. Ripple Suicide Prevention, they're just remarkable. You know, the Ollie Foundation, Baton of Hope, SafeNet, Mentivity, Talk Club, I've got everything. So please don't hesitate. Let's keep you all safe and, yeah, work together.
Okay, well, thank you so very much for this absorbing and really wonderful session. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you shared
Thank
so
you,
much
guys.
interesting, so much encouraging information. I want to thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you guys are doing. Everybody, for all that you do.
And likewise, same to you.
Thank
So, you all have been listening to a very, very special broadcast with Francesca Jex of the United Kingdom. And we hope that you've gathered a lot of relevant and information that you can certainly learn and grow from. And we're very happy that you have been part of this broadcast. So, to everyone out there, thank you so much again for joining, and have a good day, good night, good evening. Goodbye.